Good afternoon. So in this video, I'm going to discuss sums and sigma notations. Specifically, I will be discussing the different summation formulas that you need to know in calculus, particularly if you want to find the area of a region. So for your learning objectives, at the end of the lesson, you should be able to write sums in summation notation and apply the summation formulas in computing sums given in summation notation. So we begin by introducing sum notation. Suppose that you want to find the sum, or you want to sum the squares of the first 20 positive integers. So notice that 1 plus 4 plus 9 plus ellipses plus 400 is equivalent to 1 squared plus 2 squared plus 3 squared plus up to 20 squared, where each term in the sum has the form I square, for I is equal to 1, is equal to 2, is equal to 3, up to 20. So to reduce the amount of writing, we use the Greek capital letter sigma. So this symbol, this Greek capital letter is sigma. We use this one as a symbol for sum and write the sum in summation notation as the summation of I square from I is equal to 1 up to 20 is equal to I squared plus 2 squared plus 3 squared plus up to 20 squared, to indicate that we add together terms of the form I square, starting with I is equal to 1 and ending with I is equal to 20. So this notation is what you call the summation notation, which helps us to reduce the amount of writing. So instead of writing I square plus 2 square plus 3 square plus up to 20 squared, we can just easily write this one as the summation of I square from I is equal to 1 up to 20. The variable I is called the index of summation. Okay, so this variable I is what you call the index of summation. Okay, so in general, for any real numbers a sub 1, a sub 2, up to a sub n, we have the sigma or the summation of a sub I from I is equal to 1 up to n. So we're going to write out all the terms of this a sub I as a sub 1 because I is equal to 1. So ibig sabihin mag-start tayo sa 1 plus a sub 2 plus up to a sub n until such time na maabot natin yung number na nandun sa uppermost part ng ating sigma notation. Okay? Dahil n yan, so hanggang dun tayo sa a sub n. Okay, so in example number 1, we're going to write in summation notation. For letter A, we have square root of 1 plus square root of 2 plus square root of 3 plus up to square root of 10. So we have here the sum of the square roots of the integers from 1 to 10. Okay, so if we're going to write this in summation notation, we have square root of 1 plus square root of 2 plus square root of 3 plus up to square root of 10. That will be equal to the summation of square root of I. So these terms are of the form square root of I from I is equal to 1 kasi nag-start tayo sa 1 up to 10 because we end up with 10. For letter B, we have 3 cube plus 4 cube plus 5 cube plus up to 45 cube. So as you can see, we started at 3 and then we ended up with 45. And these are the cubes of positive integers from 3 up to 45. So the sum of the cubes of integers from 3 to 5. So if we're going to write that in summation notation, we have the summation of I cube. So these terms are written in the form I cube, where I is equal to 3. Nag-start tayo sa 3 up to 45. So next, we're going to have computing sums given in summation notation. So write out all terms and compute the sum. Okay, so for example, letter A, we have the summation of the quantity 2i plus 1 from I is equal to 1 up to 8. Okay, so we're going to evaluate this one. Itong 2i plus 1, i-evaluate natin from 1 with I is equal to 1, is equal to 2, is equal to 3, up to I is equal to 8. Okay, so if we have I is equal to 1, we have 2 times 1 plus 1. Plus, if we have I is equal to 2, we have 2 times 2 plus 1. If we plug in I is equal to 3, we have 2 times 3 plus 1. And then if I is equal to 4, we have 2 times 4 plus 1. If we have I is equal to 5, we have 2 times 5 plus 1. If we plug in I is equal to 6, we have 2 times 6 plus 1. If I is equal to 7, we have 2 times 7 plus 1. And finally, if we have I is equal to 8, we have 2 times 8 plus 1. Okay, so if we're going to simplify that one, we have, for the first term, we have 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. Next, if we have 2 times 2, that's 4 plus 1. So we have here 5. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1. So we have 7. 2 times 4 plus 1. So we have 9. So as you can see, we are actually having an arithmetic sequence. So each term is added by 2. Nag-a-add tayo ng 2 for the succeeding term. So for this 1, we have 2 times 5, that's 10 plus 1 is 11. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1, we have 13. 2 times 7 is 14 plus 1, we have 15. And finally, we have 2 times 8 is 16 plus 1, that's 17. So if we're going to sum up all of these terms, we will have 80 as the sum. Example letter B, we have the summation of sine 2 pi I, wherein I is equal to 2 up to 6. So if we're going to have I is equal to 2, so as you can see, nag-start tayo ng 2. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that means that we should only have 5 terms. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if we have I is equal to 2, so we have sine 2 pi times 2. Sine 2 pi times 2, so we're going to have, if we have I is equal to 2, we have sine times 4 pi. If I is equal to 3, so susulat natin. Sine times 2 pi times 3. That's why we have sine 6 pi. And then if I is equal to 4, so we have sine 2 pi. Sine 2 pi times 4, we have sine 8 pi. And then if we have 5, We have sine 2 pi times 5. That's why we have sine 10 pi. And then if we have 6, so we were going to end with 6. If we have 6, that's sine times 2 pi times 6. That's why we have sine 12 pi. Now, if we're going to get the sine of 4 pi, that will be 0. Sine 6 pi is 0. Sine 8 pi is 0. Sine 10 pi is 0. And also sine 12 pi is 0. So the sum of all of these terms is just 0. And notice that the sum is started at I is equal to 2. For letter C, we have the summation of 5. 5 is a constant from I is equal to 4 up to 10. So kung bibilangin natin, we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we should only have 7 terms. So in this case, since we have the sum of a constant, 5 is a constant, so we're adding 5. How many is that? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to add 5 7 times. That's why we have 5 times 5 times 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 and plus 5, since there are 7 terms from 4 up to 10. So always remember that if you have the sum of a constant, you just add it uh, by itself, depending on the number of terms we have from this lower part, the number on the lower part of the summation notation, up to the top number on the summation. So again, since we started with I is equal to 4 up to 10, so we have 7 terms from 4 to 10. That's why you add 5 7 times by itself. So we have the summation of 5 from I is equal to 4 up to 10 is equal to 35. So we give several shortcuts for computing sums in the following result. So first, we're going to have sum of constants. So what is the formula in finding the sum of constants? So we have the summation of C, where C is constant, from I is equal to 1 up to n is equal to C times n. So that means that if you have the sum of constants, you're just going to multiply the constant and this n, the number on top of the sigma notation. Example, say if we have the summation of 8 from I is equal to 1 up to 4, so that means that you're going to add 8 4 times. So you have 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. And if you apply this formula, so since this is a constant, just multiply the constant to the number on top of the sigma notation. So we have 8 times 4 is equal to 32. So you will have the same answer. Next, if you have the summation of 7 from I is equal to 1 up to 8, so applying the formula, just multiply the constant with that of the number on top of the sigma. So we have 7 times 8, that's equal to 56. And for our last example, we have the summation of 9 from I is equal to 1 up to 5. So applying the formula again, just multiply the constant to the top number. So you have 9 times 5 is equal to 45. Next, we have the sum of the first n positive integers. So if we're having the sum of the first n positive integers, the formula that you're going to apply is this one. the summation of I from I is equal to 1 up to n is given by n times the quantity n plus 1 divided by 2. Okay, so say for example, we have the summation of I from I is equal to 1 up to 5. So we're getting the sum of the first 5 positive integers since we started from 1 up to 5. So that is equal to, so sulat lang natin, if I is equal to 1, we have 1. If we plug in I is equal to 2, we have 2. If we have I is equal to 3, so we have 3. And so on and so forth. So we have 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 since we're finding the sum of the first 5 positive integers. So if we sum it up, we have 1 plus 2 is 3 plus 3 is 6 plus 4 is 10 plus 5 is equal to 15. So now let's confirm whether the answer is the same if we apply the formula. So we have the summation of I from I is equal to 1 up to 5. So ang n natin dito ay yung nandito sa taas ng sigma notation. So n is equal to 5. So applying the formula, we have n times n plus 1. So ang n natin ay 5. So we have 5 times the quantity 5 plus 1 divided by 2. Simplifying, we have 5 plus 1 is 6. So 5 times 6 is 30 divided by 2 is equal to 15. So you can see that the answer is the same. Okay, so let's have another example. Okay, so we have the summation of 6i from I is equal to 1 up to 4. So if we're going to have I is equal to 1, evaluate natin to using I is equal to 1, 2, 3 up to 4. So we have, if we have I is equal to 1, we have 6 times 1. If I is equal to 2, we have 6 times 2. If I is equal to 3, we have 6 times 3. And if we have I is equal to 4, we have 6 times 4. So simplify natin. This is 6. This is 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. And 6 times 4 is 24. So we have 6 plus 12 is 18. 18 plus 18 is 36. 36 plus 24 is 60. Okay, so let's confirm that answer. So we have summation of 6i from I is equal to 1 up to 4. So what I'm going to do is to take the constant 6 and move it to the front. So ilalagay natin siya dito. Kaya nandito yan. Okay, so I'm going to have 6 in front. And then what will remain is the I. So 6 times the summation of I from I is equal to 1 up to 4. So just copied 6 and then apply this formula in finding the sum of the first n positive integers. So we have I is equal to 1 up to 4. So ang n natin dito ay 4 kasi 4 itong nandito sa taas ng sigma notation. So we have 6 times, so apply natin tong formula na to. Ang n natin ay 4 times quantity 4 plus 1 divided by 2. Simplifying, we have 6. Okay, so 4 times 4 plus 1 is 5. 4 times 5 is 20 divided by 2. So we have 6 times 20 divided by 2 is, this is 10. So 6 times 10 is equal to 60. So as you can see, the answers are the same. So let's have another example. Okay, so we have the summation of the quantity 7i minus 3 from I is equal to 1 up to 5. Okay, so evaluate 7i minus 3 with I values from 1 up to 5. So if we have I is equal to 1, we have 7 times 1 minus 3. If we plug in I is equal to 2, we have 7 times 2 minus 3. If I is equal to 3, we have 7 times 3 minus 3. And then if I is equal to 4, we have 7 times 4 minus 3. And lastly, if I is equal to 5, we have 7 times 5 minus 3. Okay, so that's equal to, for this one, 7 times 1 is 7. 7 minus 3 is 4. Plus, 7 times 2 is 14 minus 3 is 11. Plus, 7 times 3 is 21. 21 minus 3 is 18. Plus 7 times 4 is 28. 28 minus 3 is 25. And then 7 times 5 is 35 minus 3 is 32. So if we add all of this one, it will be equal to 90. Okay, so use the summation formula to confirm whether we will get the same answer. Okay, so ang gagawin natin dito is we're going to write this one, 7i minus 3, into two different sums. So, gaya ng ginawa natin kanina, we will move this 7 in front. Kaya nandyan yung 7 natin. And then, ang matitira dito ay yung I. So, we have the summation, 7 times the summation of I from I is equal to 1 up to 5. And then, separate natin to. So, we also have minus the summation of summation of 3 from I is equal to 1 up to 5. So, we're going to apply the formula in finding the sum of the first n positive integers here, and then the formula for the sum of a constant here. Okay, so let's have first this one. So in this, we're going to apply the formula in finding the sum of the first n positive integers given by this one, n times n, quantity n plus 1 divided by 2. So just copy the constant 7, and then we have n is equal to 5. So we have 5 times the quantity 5 plus 1 divided by 2 minus, so dito naman, we will apply the formula in finding the sum of a constant. So the constant is 3, and then ang n natin ay 5. So we're just going to multiply the constant and the n. So we have minus 3 times 5. Simplifying, we have 5 times 5 plus 1, so this is 6. So 5 times 6 is 30. 30 divided by 2 is 15. So that's why we have 7 times 15 here. Minus 3 times 5 is 15. So 7 times 15 is 105, minus 15 is equal to 90. So again, the answers are the same. Okay, so for the sake of practice, let's have another example. Say if we have the summation of the quantity 9i plus 7 from I is equal to 1 up to 8. So, ang gagawin natin ay isa-separate ulit natin into two different sums. So, for this 9i, we're going to move 9 in front. So, that's why we have 9 here. Para ang matira dito ay I. So, we can apply the formula in finding the sum of positive integers. And then, dito naman, sa pangalawang sum, so we can apply the sum of a constant. So, we can write that as the sum 9 times the summation of I from I is equal to 1 up to 8, plus the summation of 7 from I is equal to 1 up to 8. So, dito sa part na to, we're going to apply the formula n times the quantity n plus 1 divided by 2. And then dito sa constant, it's just c times n. Okay, so ang n natin ay 8. So we have 9 times 8 times the quantity 8 plus 1 divided by 2 plus 7 times 8. So ito yan. And then ito naman ay yung 7 times 8. So we have 8 times 8 plus 1 is 9. So 8 times 9 is 72 divided by 2. So 9 times 72 divided by 2 plus 56. 7 times 8 is 56. So 72 divided by 2 is 36. That's why we have 9 times 36 plus 56. So we have 9 times 36 is 324 plus 50. This is 56. So 324 plus 56 is equal to 380. So now let's confirm it using the simple addition. So the other way around naman. So we have the summation of 9i plus 7 from I is equal to 1 up to 8. So we're going to evaluate this 9i plus 7 with values I is equal to 1, is equal to 2, is equal to 3, up to 8. So if we have I is equal to 1, we have 9 times 1 plus 7 plus, if we have I is equal to 2, we have 9 times 2 plus 7. If we have I is equal to 3, we have 9 times 3 plus 7, and so on. So isa-substitute natin yung I values from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so dito, sa part na to, we have 9 times 1 is 9 plus 7 is 16. Next, 9 times 2 is 18 plus 7 is 25. 9 times 3 is 27 plus 7 is 34. 9 times 4 is 36 plus 7 is 43. 9 times 5 is 45 plus 7 is 52. 9 times 6 is 54 plus 7 is 61. And then 9 times 7 is 63 plus 7 is 70. And then 9 times 8 is 72 plus 7 is 79. So 6 plus 25, 16 I should say, 16 plus 25 is 41. 41 plus 34 is 75. 75 plus 43 is 118 plus 52 is 170 plus 61 is 231 plus 70 is equal to 301 plus 79, we have 380. So the answers are still the same by using simple addition and by using the formulas in finding the sum of the first and positive integers and the sum of constant. Okay, so next we have the sum of the squares of the first and positive integers. So the formula is summation of I square from I is equal to 1 up to n is given by n times the quantity n plus 1 times the quantity 2n plus 1 divided by 6. So let's have an example. Say for example, we have this one. The summation of I square from I is equal to 1 up to 6. So, isa-substitute natin yung value ng I with 1, 2, 3, up to 6. Say, if we have I is equal to 1, we have 1 square. If I is equal to 2, we have 2 square. I is equal to 3, we have 3 square. I is equal to 4, 4 square. plus I is equal to 5, 5 square, plus I is equal to 6, we have 6 square. So this is I square is 1, 2 square is 4, 3 square is 9, 4 square is 16, 5 square is 25, 6 square is 36. So if we add all of this together, we will have 91. Okay, so now let's confirm that this formula is correct. If this is correct, then we can have the same answer. So using the formula, we have the summation of I square where I is equal to 1 up to 6. So ang n natin ay 6. So substituting 6 in the formula, so we have 6 times the quantity 6 plus 1 times 2 times 6 plus 1 divided by 6. So 6 times 6 plus 1, this is 7. And then 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1 is 13. So 6 times 7 is 42. And then 12 plus 1 is 13 divided by 6. And then we can divide 42 by 6. 42 divided by 6 is 7. 7 times 13 is equivalent to 91. So parehas sila ng sagot. Dito naman tayo sa sum of the cubes of the first n positive integers. So, ang gagamitin naman nating formula is the summation of I cube from I is equal to 1 up to n is equal to n squared times the quantity n plus 1 squared divided by 4. Okay, so use it in an example. Say if we have the summation of I cube where I is equal to 1 up to 4. So if we plug in I is equal to 1, we have I cube. I is equal to 2, we have 2 cube. I is equal to 3, 3 cube. And so on and so forth. Okay? So 1 cube is 1, 2 cube is 8, 3 cube is 27, and 4 cube is 64. So 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 27 is 36. 36 plus 64 is 100. Ngayon, gamitin naman natin itong binigay na formula. Okay? So, ang n natin ay 4. So, the summation of I cube from I is equal to 1 up to 4 is equal to. So, substitute lang natin yung value ng n dito sa formula. Ang n natin ay 4. So, 4 squared times the quantity 4 plus 1 squared divided by 4. So, 4 squared is 16. 4 plus 1 is 5. When you square 5, you have 25 divided by 4. So, we can divide 16 by 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. 4 times 25 is equal to 100. So, the answers are the same. Let's have another example. So this time, we will apply this formula for the sum of the first, we're going to use the formula in finding the sum of the cubes and the squares, cubes and squares of the first positive integers. So if we have the summation of I times the quantity I squared plus 4I from I is equal to 1 up to 5. So ang gagawin natin, we're going to rewrite this one by distributing I into I squared and 4I. So I times I squared is I cube. And then I times 4I is 4I squared. So ang gagawin natin, we have to separate natin into two separate sums. So we have the summation of I cube from I is equal to 1 up to 5, and then just like what we did in our previous examples, move 4 in front. So nandyan yung 4 natin, and then evaluate the summation of I square. Yung natira dito ay I square. summation of I square from I is equal to 1 up to 5. Okay, so dito, ito yung gagamitin nating formula. The sum of the cubes of the first n positive integers. So ang n natin ay 5, of course. So this formula. So that's equal to 5 square times the quantity 5 plus 1 squared divided by 4. And then, copyan lang yung 4 doon. And then, apply this one, the sum of the squares. So that is 5 times the quantity 5 plus 1. 2 times 5 plus 1 divided by 6. Simplifying further, we have 5 squared is 25. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 squared is 36 divided by 4. Plus 4. Okay, so this is 5 times 5 plus 1 is 6. So meron tayong 5 times 6 dyan. And then 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 1 is 11 divided by 6. Okay, so now 25 times 36 divided by 4 is 225. And then 5 times 6 times 11. We can cancel 6 there. So we have 5 times 11 is 55. So 4 times 55. So 225 plus 4 times 55 is 220. So the sum of 225 and 220 is 445. Okay, so example. For our last example, so we have the summation of the quantity I minus 1 squared. So ang gagamitin natin ditong mga formulas ay the formula for the constant, the formula for the sum of the first and positive integers, and the formula for the sum of the squares. Okay, so we have the summation of the quantity I minus 1 squared where I is equal to 1 up to 9. So, ang una natin gagawin dito ay kunin muna natin yung square of this binomial by using the FOIL method. So, that is written as 1, I minus 1. This is I minus 1 times I minus 1. So using the FOIL method, we have f is the first terms. So I times I is I squared. I squared. And then the outer terms, I and negative 1. So I times negative 1 is negative I. Inner terms, we have negative 1 and positive I. So we have negative 1 times I is negative I. And then last terms, we have negative 1 times negative 1. The product is positive 1. So combined similar terms, negative 1, negative I times negative I minus negative I is negative 2I. So the answer, the square of this binomial is I square minus 2I plus 1. So ngayon that we have this I square minus 2I plus 1, ang gagawin natin is to separate this into 3 different sums. So we have I square, we have negative 2I, and then constant 1. So we have here the summation of I square, yung first term, I square from I is equal to 1 up to 9. And then minus, lilipat natin, or we're going to move in front, yung negative 2 times the summation of I, yung I yung natira dito, from I is equal to 1 up to 9 plus the constant 1. So the summation of 1 from I is equal to 1 up to 9. So dito muna tayo sa summation na to. So I square. Okay, so we're going to apply this formula. The summation of I square from I is equal to 1 up to n is given by this formula. So, ang n natin ay equal sa 9. So, just substitute the value of n. So, 9 times the quantity n, 9 plus 1 times the quantity 2 times 9 plus 1 divided by 6. Minus. So, dito naman tayo. So, ito naman yung gagamitin nating formula. The formula in finding the sum of the first and positive integers. So, just substitute the value of n in this formula. So, just copy negative 2 and then n is 9. So, 9 times 9 plus 1 divided by 2 plus the formula in finding the sum of a constant. So, just multiply the constant and the n. So, ang constant natin ay 1 and then ang n natin ay 9. So, just multiply 1 times 9. Simplifying further, we have 9 times, so this is 9. 9 plus 1 is 10. So, and then 2 times 9 is 18. 18 plus 1 is 19. So, 9 times 10 times 19 divided by 6 minus. And then dito naman, just copy negative 2. 9 times 9 plus 1 is 10. So this will become 9 times 10 is 90. 90 divided by 2 is 45. Plus 1 times 9 is of course 9. Next, so 9 times 10 is 90. 90 times 19 is 1710 divided by 6. And then negative 2 times 45 is negative 90 plus 9. So 1710 divided by 6 is equal to 285 minus 90 plus 9 is equal to 204. So those are the different summation formulas that you need to know in calculus. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much.